I thank the gentleman from Colorado. I'll now recognize the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Onder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the witnesses for being here today. Republicans have warned for years about the dangers of unchecked federal spending, but because of the Biden administration's unprecedented spending spree and the Democrats' refusal to return spending to pre-COVID levels, even after adjusting for inflation, we're now at a defining crossroad. This first chart shows a simple overview of our federal debt to GDP ratio. Within just a few years, debt held by the public will suppress every previous record in our nation's history, even the levels reached during World War II. Here we are. We're up here at World War II levels of debt to GDP ratio. The second chart breaks down the annual federal spending by category. One change that I believe should alarm every American is down here in the orange at about 6, 7 o'clock, is the slice of our federal budget that is devoted to paying interest on our debt. We're now at 13%. So at $881 billion, which I think is even larger than that today, that exceeds the defense budget, it exceeds Medicare and the ACA, and Medicaid and the ACA, and it exceeds Medicare. This is truly a warning sign. 2 years ago, 2 years ago, we passed up the defense budget and our interest spending. And it's just a few questions. Ms. Madmi, you mentioned Medicaid spending increasing even after the one big beautiful bill and the reforms there, such as requiring work, keeping illegal aliens off of welfare, checking eligibility. I believe we really should keep that in mind as we think about extending enhanced COVID ACA credits 2.5 years after the official end of COVID. Could you explain how our growing deficit and debt is affecting? I believe Mr. Walker pointed out that Moody's downgraded America's credit rating this year. Can you explain how the growing debt and deficit crisis affect our credit rating?
Sure, absolutely. I'll take the first question first, and we'll go from there. Keep me on track if I missed something from you. Yes, to go back to your question on Medicaid spending after OBBB, following the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, I would just say that to describe Medicaid reforms included in that bill as cuts, that's just Washington math, plain and simple.
Only in D.C. does continued increasing spending constitute a cut.
Absolutely. In fiscal year 2024, we were spending $618 billion on Medicaid, a 31% increase over the budget window. After the One Big Beautiful Bill Act would get us to $807 billion. So that's actually nearly double what our Medicaid spend was from the pre-COVID level of $409 billion. So that's
incredible.
Question.
So it's just factually wrong.
Correct.
That we cut Medicaid in the One Big Beautiful Bill.
That's correct.
No matter what the Democrats tell us, no matter what the hospital lobbyists tell us, yeah. Okay.
If you believe that math is math,
yes,
then you are right.
Right.
I think that it's also important that we talk a little bit about the other part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, because I was criticized by your colleague and I didn't have a chance to respond here. When I say that I reject the premise that the tax cuts included in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act don't increase the deficit, what I was trying to tell the congressman is that those are not new tax cuts.
Right.
These are things that the American people are already experiencing. So what the One Big Beautiful Bill Act was prevent a tax hike on the American people.
Exactly. And and I think sometimes to some extent we Republicans that are messaging largest tax cut in American history, that's not exactly true. What we did is prevented a multi-trillion-dollar tax increase, which is what my Democrat colleagues seem to advocate.
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
And then you asked me as well, I recognize you only have a few seconds left.
Go ahead.
You asked me as well about how our interest payments are negatively impacting our standing in terms of our credit. Well, that couldn't be more clear. You pointed out that our interest payments are outpacing our payments for defense, they're outpacing our economy, they're outpacing everything that's sustainable. We're making a $1.22 trillion interest payment in the next fiscal year, and that alone, as I mentioned at the beginning of this Congress, is larger than the GDPs of every country in the world except for 16, excepting the United States, of course. That's going to naturally have an impact when credit rating agencies are considering whether or not we can actually meet our obligations.
And no wonder young people can't afford to buy homes, because they're competing with the federal government for borrowing.
Precisely.
Thank you very much for your testimony.